Part 2, the concept of teleology remains alive nonetheless, having recently been granted a scientific reprieve in the form of intelligent design theory. ID theory holds that the complexity of biological systems implies the involvement of empirically detectable intelligent causes in nature. Although the roots of ID theory can be traced back to theological arguments from design, it is explicitly scientific, rather than theological in character, and has thus been presented on the same basis as any other scientific hypothesis awaiting scientific confirmation. Rather than confining itself to theological or teleological causation, ID theory technically allows for any kind of intelligent designer, a human being, an artificial intelligence, even sentient aliens. This reflects the idea that intelligence is a generic quality which leaves a signature identifiable by techniques already heavily employed in such fields as cryptography, anthropology, forensics, and computer science. It remains only to note that, while explaining the inherent complexity of such a material, designer would launch an explanatory regress that could end only with some sort of prime mover, thus coming down to something very much like teleology. After all, ID theory has thus far committed itself only to design inference. That is, it currently proposes only to explain complex biological phenomena in terms of design, not to explain the designer itself. With regard to deeper levels of explanation, the field remains open. Because neo-Darwinism is held forth as a synthesis of Darwinian natural selection and post-Mendelian genetics, it is sometimes referred to as the modern synthesis. However, it appears to fall somewhat short of this title, for not only is its basic approach to evolutionary biology no longer especially modern, but despite the fact that it is a minority viewpoint counterbalanced by cogent and far more popular alternatives including theistic evolution and ID theory, it actively resists meaningful extension. Many of its most influential proponents have dismissed ID theory virtually on sight, declaring themselves needless of justification or remedial dialectic despite the many points raised against them, and this is not something that the proponents of a modern synthesis would ordinarily have the privilege of doing. A synthesis is ordinarily expected to accommodate both sides of a controversy regarding its subject matter, not just the side favored by the synthesis. Given the dissonance of the neo-Darwinist and teleological viewpoints, it is hardly surprising that many modern authors and scientists regard the neo-Darwinian and teleological theories of biological evolution as mutually irreconcilable, dwelling on their differences and ignoring their commonalities. Each side of the debate seems intent on pointing out the real, or imagined deficiencies of the other while resting its case on its own real or imagined virtues. This paper will take a road less traveled, treating the opposition of these views as a problem of reconciliation, and seeking a consistent comprehensive framework in which to combine their strengths, decide their differences, and unite them in synergy. To the extent that both theories can be interpreted in such a framework, any apparent points of contradiction would be separated by context, and irreconcilable differences thereby avoided. The ideal reconciliatory framework would be self-contained but comprehensive, meaning that both theories could be truthfully interpreted within it to the maximum possible extent, and consistent, meaning that irreconcilable differences between the theories could not survive the interpretation process. It would also reveal any biconditionality between the two theories, were they in any way to imply each other. This would be made explicit. For example, were a logical extension of neo-Darwinism to somehow yield idea-related concepts such as teleological agency and teleological causation, these would be seen to emerge from neo-Darwinist premises. Conversely, were ID-theoretic concepts to yield ingredients of neo-Darwinism, this too would be explicated. In any case, the result would wear the title of synthesis far more credibly than neo-Darwinism alone.